test data is of three types. Test data can be normal test data. So it can be normal test data, abnormal test data, or boundary test data. These are the three types of test data. As far as our pre-release is concerned, we can provide test data, for example, for the senior citizens, variable, right? For this particular variable, let's give examples of test data. Examples of test data that can be used for senior citizens, for the variable senior citizens. Okay, these are examples of the different test data values that we can use. Okay, let's give examples. 21, for example, is a normal test data value. Remember that the number of senior citizens that could go out on the trip was between 10 and 36. So 21 is a normal test data value. It should be accepted by our program, right? So this is an example of a normal test data value. Remember, the user was going to input senior citizens, right? The value of this variable was provided by the user. So what if the user enters a value 21? This value is normal value and it should be accepted by the program, right? Okay, fine. But what if the user inputs this value 5? This is abnormal test data. This value should be rejected by the program. It should not be accepted by the program because the minimum number of senior citizens that can go on the trip is 10. So I hope you understand that this is abnormal test data. It will not be accepted. Another example of abnormal test data for senior citizens would be 39. This should not be accepted. 39 should not be accepted because the maximum number that can go out on the trip is 36, right? So this should not be allowed, right? You can write something like -1 also, right? -1 should not be allowed also because 10 to 36 is the valid range, right? So all of these examples are examples of abnormal test data. This is the kind of data that should be rejected by the program. Okay. How about boundary test data? See, boundary test data for senior citizens could be 36, right? This is the boundary value. This is the last value. More than 36 will not be allowed. Less than 36 will be allowed. And 36 will also be allowed. So 36 is the boundary value. This is one limit, right? So 36 is the boundary value and boundary values should be accepted by the programs. So this is a boundary value and it should be accepted by the program because 36 is the maximum number of allowed senior citizens that can go on the trip. You can also choose 10 to be the boundary value, right? This is the lower boundary value. A minimum of 10 senior citizens can go on the trip. So this is also a boundary value and this is also an example of a boundary value. I hope you understand what test data is. So when you get a question in the exam wanting test data, then you must think of that particular variable and what kind of values it can hold before you can decide normal test data, abnormal test data, boundary test data. Okay.